We are live! Episode 39, we're deep down in the bowels of Fleece Music. Chris Folds, Magic Mike, Bonnie at the controls, trying to make us look good as they do every single week. Folds, give us an anecdote, tell us something interesting.
Something interesting, okay. Well, today is the March 31st. It's the last day of the, it's March 30th actually, sorry. So,
Good start here.
Anything interesting? I was going to say it's the last day of the fiscal year and we're starting
You got to come
so
prepared with an anecdote every time.
I'm so busy. I have so much going on today.
I called you last night, once again, no answer to the call.
I was having dinner with Bob, our owner, to talk about the future of the paper.
The high-end elites. You're probably up in your dream world in Bachelor
I was at Dorian, downtown, and I got to say that the food there is fantastic. And when Bob walked over to the drugstore and I walked over to my car and I felt safe. There was no problems downtown for that. I'm just going to say that up front. And he felt safe walking there back to his hotel. And it was a nice night. It was like summer last night. It was beautiful.
We are not here to rip on downtown, but we are going to address the issues because they're coming up a lot. And we've talked about them ad nauseum at the show. And once again, McDonald's. Just give us the rundown with what happened there.
The downtown McDonald's location is permanently closed. The owner, Brandy Gazda Secone, I talked to her on the weekend. She
something like that. Brandy Secone.
Brandy. We talked on the weekend, and she explained why they're closing. True business hasn't been great since the pandemic hit, and before that. But even before the pandemic, they reduced their hours because there's a lot of social issues, sort of street-related issues that are bothering staff there. And we posted a video, quite a stark, frightening video of a guy who was kind of losing it in there.
Yeah.
He damaged some stuff. The staff is generally young.
Yeah, you're not welcome back here ever again.
My God.
And they basically said that's enough, enough's enough. They don't want to do that anymore. So they've closed that store. It's true that there's a lot of stores around North America that are downtown stores that don't have drive-thrus, that don't have play places, and they're closing, and that's probably part of McDonald's overall corporate vision. But she says the significant factor was the social issues downtown, and that's a fact, and that's like you said, that's an ongoing problem for which we have yet to find a solution, and we talk ourselves in circles.
Yeah, you and I will continue talking about that. I just want to tee up our guests today. We have two live guests, first time ever on the show. We're going to have Howie Reimer of downtown Kamloops to come on and talk about what we're going to talk about with McDonald's.
Yeah, I'll talk about this, yeah.
And we've got Matt Sekeres of the Sekeres and Price Show, longtime Vancouver sports media figure. I've kind of grown up listening to him on 1040. Now he's going into the digital space, so we're going to talk to him about sports later on. But let's get back to this topic with McDonald's. It seems like a tipping point, though. Like we've talked about this a lot. This seems like a bit different to me.
This is a tipping point in that this is the first time where an incident or something happens or there's a closure elicited such a response from the mayor of Kamloops. Ken Christian took a day or two after reading our article and he sent out he blasted all the media with a very, very long press release that indicated that this is not unique to Kamloops, that we're trying to work on it, but they also had a multi-point examples of what they're trying to do, and it's not just the city's responsibility. The city's being burdened more so than they should, I think, with trying to deal with issues that aren't in their domain. You know, Interior Health refuses to give funding for one more mental health nurse to fund CAR 40. CAR 40 is a great program that pairs a uniformed officer with a mental health nurse to go to mental health calls. Last year there was 45,000 calls overall in Kamloops. 14,000 of those were mental health related. Yeah. But that car is only working 4 days a week from 8 to 4. And a lot of these, mental health calls aren't restricted to daytime hours. The city is now talking about funding a nurse on their own through our taxpayer dollars, which is not their domain.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's hard not to have sympathy for poverty-stricken people, for people that struggle with mental health, but you also, I don't want to feel unsafe in downtown when I'm downtown. Yep. And I know, water cooler talk, you and I were at Duffy's the other night. It's not hard to find people who have had it.
That dominated the talk there. I heard another table talking about it there because people read the stories, they experience it themselves. And again, not to sound like a left-wing liberal social justice warrior, but there's two victims here all the time. There's the victim of the person who's not in the right mind. and there's the victim and the person, the business owner or the resident who's being victimized by someone who needs help and they can't get the help. That's aside from just the criminal element.
Yeah, and the comments section, as you would expect,
more than
a dangerous place to go.
Yeah.
It's a dangerous place to go. If you're the mayor, if you're on city council, if you're a cop.
If you don't have the thick skin, you stay off social media because there's a lot of nasty people there. The prevailing thing I'm hearing, and I'll say it right now, I'm leaning toward this I favor this approach, and maybe these a little more investigation. Many years ago, the institutionalized system of mental health was closed down because there's abuses, and it wasn't helping people. The Riverviews and the Essendales and those big hospitals for mentally ill people, but they were closed down. It was done out of compassion, but the argument has been that they had nowhere to go, and that's when the downtown east side Hastings flourished into this horrible thing that it is now, and that's led to what we're having here now. I think that if a person is on the streets and they're mentally ill and they're a danger to themselves or others, there should be a mechanism to forcibly take them off the street and get them help. If someone's in court and they're committing crimes and they cite an addiction or a mental health problem, then they should be given a choice. Okay, either go to jail or you go and you get help for what your problem is. You shouldn't be released back into the street because it helps nobody.
Do you expect to have backlash on that opinion? Just even
that, well, that is civil libertarians will say you can't do that, and you can't do that. But if you can't do that, then I would like to ask them, what's the answer? Because what we're doing now is not helping. It's not working. It's not working. Obviously, it's not working. And the city and BC Housing and all the social agencies are doing all they can, and it just seems to be a lost cause.
I guess for transparency's sake, we should say that McDonald's sponsors our show. That has no reason.
No, they don't. I mean, last year we did a story on the Tranquil Road Tim Hortons. That owner-operator closed permanently for exactly the same reason. That after time and time again being vandalized and being harassed, and the tipping point was a guy, I think was he was pepper sprayed, but he ran into the Tim Hortons, and he was like spitting and coughing, and he ran behind the counter, and he terrorized people unintentionally, I think. But the point is, that was it, and it's still closed today. So we do the story regardless of what it is.
We would, and we're going to talk to Howie in just 1 second. But before we do, I was at Nu Leaf Produce Market this very morning, and I'll tell you what you probably don't know. Actually, I know you don't know for sure is charcuterie boards, because that Abbotsford palate, you don't understand charcuterie boards.
I made one 2 weeks ago for my wife because she works late, she works hard, and we love it.
Probably a slab of
In fact,
beef.
of the two people here, I am the expert on charcuterie boards. What's the best board? What's the best board in
White
town?
Rock,
I can tell you right now.
I know charcuterie boards.
South Surrey, Newton, but I can tell you this right now. The best charcuterie board in town has been. See, there we go. Has been the Blue Lounge.
There's a siren.
There's a siren. The Blue Lounge in the former Hotel 540 is now called Cordo. It's still pretty good, but that was the best one in town. There's a lot of good ones now.
They don't have charcuterie boards at the Highwayman where you go to. Okay.
Redbeard has a good one.
They have mini burgers, and that's about it. Probably undercooked.
They have Highliner frozen fish, and it's good. It's good stuff.
All right, let's check this commercial out from Nu Leaf Produce Market right now.
I do know charcuterie. That's funny you mentioned that because I love that shit.
You've got no idea.
No, you know what I did? I actually went out and I spent on a Saturday buying all the stuff, and then my wife worked till 8. She came back and I made a nice board.
Beautiful Wednesday morning at the Nu Leaf Produce Market. I'm here with my buddy Hermels. He's got a big smile on his face because he asked me, Marty, do you know anything about charcuterie boards? And I said, Hermels, you should know me better than this. I'm from White Rock. I'm a blue-blooded White Rocky and the Silver Spoon. I know charcuterie boards better than everyone, which means I know that Nu Leaf Produce Market is where you want to go. And you might say, Marty, why? Well, how about this? Whether it's your local cheeses from the Dutchman Dairy, just from around the corner in Sekeres, or maybe you're looking for the finest French and Italian sausage, cheese, and olives. Everyone's hard at work, you can see that. Then you've got the chop and block section. Italian sausage, chorizo, red hot jack, maple bacon cheddar, jalapeno cheddar. And then maybe you'd like to go international and get some English sausage. Anything you want for your spring and summer charcuterie boards, come on down to Nu Leaf Produce Market. Is Howie on?
Yeah, Howie's on. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's Howie Reimer right there. I think it's safe to say he'd be considered a former beloved member of the Kamloops media in general. Like, I don't think there's too many people in the media who didn't.
Beloved media guy, for sure. Howie's a good guy. Everyone I know talks well of him. I don't know him well, but I know Howie, and he's a great guy. Do
you have any Howie Reimer stories, or you just kind of knew him?
Well, the only thing, many moons ago, I think when we were both on our first marriages, we lived in Aberdeen, and we would meet each other at sort of mutual acquaintances barbecues, and we didn't know each other too well, but we knew each other. We were in the media, and we ended up talking like for hours at night on lawn chairs, just about the media stuff,
having
about
some
life.
charcuterie together. And
charcuterie together, yeah. And one time I was driving to work from Aberdeen, and my kids went to Aberdeen Elementary at the time, and I always drop them off. They jump out. I keep going. And Howie was doing the morning show on Country 103, and his first stint before he left and came back. And it was Country 103. I was listening to it on the way to work, and he had a contest, and it was a great contest. It was 75 lottery tickets and a little portable radio if you answered the trivia question. And I think he held me out because I knew it was a sports question. So I pulled over, I kicked the kids out of the car, and I called in on my flip phone. And I got in, and he answered. And I'm not sure if he knew it was me. I think he did. And the question was, in 1994, this player became the first American hockey player to win the Calder Trophy, for the playoff MVP.
In 1994?
Yeah.
What, for Brian Lee?
The best year. Oh. I thought it was Leach or Mike Richter, and I remember saying, I think is it Richter? Is it? And he goes, and I said, Brian Leach. He goes, yeah, you won. So I won.
Right on.
So I think he kind of eased me toward it. So I drove down late that week, and I went up the stairs at NL, and he came out, and we talked, and he gave me my 75 lottery tickets and my little radio, which broke shortly thereafter.
And did he win anything on the lottery tickets? Or?
Sweet bugger all. Nothing. Not a thing. So, you know.
Thanks, Howie.
Thanks a lot, Howie.
And with that, can we bring him in to talk? Does he remember this?
Yes.
Hey, Howie.
I do.
Yes.
Do you miss the media game? Do you miss NL and that side of things?
Those guys? Yeah, I do. You know what? I miss the excitement of the newsroom. I miss the buzz. I miss the guys. I miss the chatter. But that's all I miss. There's a lot of things we won't get into it, but yeah, I do. I mean, that's all I wanted to do since I was a wee lad, was the radio game, and I don't regret a moment of it, and I love just about every minute of it.
Yeah, that's right. Let's talk about the downtown. It's not about downtown Kamloops. It's about the social issues that are prevalent, and that's what the owner of McDonald's says. She says it's not just downtown. It's everywhere. It's North Kamloops. It's Valley View. It's up and down wherever you are. Where do you see this going from here?
I'm like you and like many that I love our downtown. And, you know, when I moved here in '93, my plan was to stay about 5 years, and we put our roots down and had more kids. And but on the first marriage, that was with you and I. Was that four marriages? I don't know. I can't remember.
Three for me. I think 2 for you. That's right. Yeah.
I'm at the goose eggs for me here.
Yeah. Yeah, I love the downtown. I think it's just a really cool spot. And I think we've had the perfect storm in the last couple of years. I think between the pandemic and the opioid crisis and the calls to defund the police, you know, the pendulum, everything has just swung against, you know, what we're seeing now. But I think we're through the worst of the pandemic. Yeah, there's still. I'm home actually with. I'm on day 4 now of. I tested positive for COVID. But you know, I think that we're through the worst of that. I think we've got to get a hold of mental health and addictions. I mean, we're 6 years into this. Yep. Into it being a you know, a health emergency. Yep. And you know, even as of the last election, last provincial election, we were hearing of how grossly underfunded this ministry was. Yeah, there's many facets, and I came on a little bit late, and I only heard a little bit of your diatribe. I'm editorial there, Chris. But I agree that we've got to the point where you have to have some consequences for your actions, particularly if you're victimizing people in a criminal way. We've just again, the pendulum is. I'm home. Ollie. That's nothing. So the pendulum has swung the other way. So but is that going to be solved overnight? No. But the things that are being done, and we saw from the mayor, and things that the Downtown Business Association is doing, things that the agencies are doing. Hopefully, EB is going to come through with complex care. Hopefully, we're going to see some changes. We heard from Sid Leckie yesterday, and some of the challenges that are facing policing, and that has to come right from the very top of federal legislation. So whether we look at it macro or micro, we're all working on it right now. But as I see us coming out of the pandemic and people start, we've seen people want to get together. We've seen that people want to reclaim these spaces, and there's a lot of investment. We got the Kelson group spending a whole lot of money on densification, and they sure see good things, and that's where nobody's waving the white flag. It's okay, what are we doing? And we are moving forward, and in all honesty, I see good things.
What's the concern level right now with business owners in general? Can you just give us an idea of the temperature there?
Well, 3 months in now. I've been 3 months on the job, and without a doubt, it is the #1 issue. It's even more so than economic recovery. The first thing they want to do is make sure that people are safe and that people feel safe. But they too, they're frustrated, and when they see McDonald's closing. There were a couple of other reasons, but the main factor was no doubt was the safety and social issues. But yeah, there's definitely frustration there. I'm at the point where I want to work collaboratively with people. There are some people that want to point fingers and say that this group should be doing more, the city should be doing more, city hall should be doing more. Right now, I want it to be a collaborative effort, some people probably need to get in gear a little bit more than others. Again, I think of the Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions, and also at the federal judicial or the court system as well. But from the business owners, they're frustrated. But we're letting them know that the sky, not that they're saying the sky is falling, because it's very real. It's very real what's happening, but that better days are ahead.
Last year we had the Hot Night in the City, which was the only event that went on. KTW had a tent there. I was there. It felt like normal. It felt so great to see all the people milling about. What's happening in the next few months downtown event-wise?
Yeah, and it was great to see Hot Night. And how about that Santa Claus parade?
Yes,
that was just absolutely awesome, and you see the pent-up energy and demand for those events. And yeah, our team and our events and marketing person is full steam ahead. We're working with a number of different groups, and next up is going to be, and we want to have a bunch of smaller things going on always downtown. We want there always to be a good vibe. But we've got the Hoops and the Loops 3-on-3 basketball. This is going to be bigger than it was a few years ago. Sean Garvey and the group that's involved in that really are, putting together what's going to be a cool event, and it's going to be for families. It's going to be for kids, and there's also going to be a back alley party as well with a DJ. That's going to be a lot of fun. Also coming up, we've got Hot Night Rip Fest. What was the other thing? My goodness, I'm drawing a blank here. But later on, Oktoberfest is something that, is coming together. Brew Loops, those kind of things. Of course, we'll also have the Santa Claus parade again. Right. But, Boy, what is
Brewloops
I'm
is
sorry.
good. Brewloops is
It's
good.
It's COVID brain.
You got COVID. You got COVID fog brain there. Yes. Battle of the Bands.
Why am I should be Mike Miltimore
Yes.
is with you. It's Battle of
Battle
the
of the Bands. That's
My
right.
I was going to say, we've been planning this for 2 years. A big, ginormous Battle of the Bands for the
And it's the one thing he can't
Kamloops
remember.
indie band. It's going to be amazing.
When is that
My
happening?
goodness. I'm sorry, Mike. COVID had Kamloops is a great town, and I have no doubt that our downtown is going to be just exploding over the next few years.
All right. Well, thanks for playing through the pain this morning. We appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks.
You had a kind of a story about a barber shop in town?
You know, my barber, and this is the problem. This is why my hair is so long, is because I just couldn't get into her anymore, and she wasn't working as much because she was afraid to go into her shop, and she ended up selling it because the threats that she was getting, the feces she was cleaning up, and she just had enough, and I can understand those frustrations.
Okay, let's move on and talk some sports now with Matt Sekeres.
Appreciate you having me on.
So we're going to talk some Canucks. We're going to talk about the media landscape. Let's start there. How is the show doing? How's the show doing in your digital space, and what metrics are you using to judge how the show is doing?
Well, we're using a lot of metrics, and I'm not the guy who goes sifting through the metrics every week. I'm the guy who gets the metrics explained to him for the most part. But the show's doing really well. There was tremendous appetite from both the listenership, the old listenership of 1040, but also the corporate community here. A lot of the sponsors that were with us for years on radio came on over. We've been able to attract new sponsors as well. And probably new listeners too, when you look at the dichotomy of where older demographics are and what they listen to and what younger demographics listen to. And, you know, as an old radio guy, I love the medium. But the fact of the matter is that young people just aren't listening to AM terrestrial radio anymore. So it was a necessary move and change for us. And so far, we're coming up on 1 year here, April 6th. Everything has gone swimmingly well.
We had Don Taylor on not too long ago, and I asked him for his memories on the final day at 1040. And what, just like he was shocked. I mean, it was what are your kind of lasting memories from that day?
I remember taking photos with Don Taylor. I can remember smoking cigars with Moj and Don Taylor on the fifth floor observation deck at the old building, and then I can remember hearing later in the day that someone wasn't feeling well and we should get a COVID test. So, it was a hellacious day, guys. I went in to get my affairs. Don, Moj, and Ryan Henderson were there. We were sort of reminiscing a little bit. Moj is a cigar smoker, so he said, "Hey, you know, final act, let's go out, have a cigar, and at least toast what we had here for almost 20 years. And so we did that. And then some of the FM jocks started coming out of their booths looking for photos. They realized the news. They realized this would be the last time we would see them. And so we started taking photos. And, you know, we said this really isn't best COVID protocol, but I guess on the day where your station gets shut down or changed formats, that's a day that you can make an exception. And so we got a little tighter for the photos. And then the next thing you know, oh boy. So I didn't catch anything, but Don sure did. And yeah, it was a rough day. It was clearly a rough day. I felt very bad for some of my colleagues. It was funny for me, guys. I sort of went, I don't know how to describe it other than saying like a peace came over me as I was driving home across Burrard Street Bridge with my affairs. I sort of knew that AM talk radio and terrestrial radio was going to have a tough go in this new media landscape. So I was somewhat prepared for everything. And, but I felt bad for some colleagues who weren't quite as prepared for the news as I was. And I felt dreadful for listeners because the next few days, I think my full-time job was responding to about 1,000 messages from different listeners and friends who were saying, you know, you were part of my routine. You know, I knew if I heard the intro to your Tell Me I'm Wrong segment and I wasn't at the kids' school, I was late picking up the kids. Yeah. You know, you were sort of a signpost marking marking and meeting out the rhythms of daily life. So It's been awesome to reconnect with that group of listeners here in the digital space.
Now, you people might not realize this, but you came to radio from the Globe and Mail. I mean,
yes,
a lot of people know that, but a lot of people I talk to don't know that. And I remember reading your stuff in the Globe and Mail, and I remember when you went, and you were doing spots on the radio, but you were still at the Globe and Mail, and then you went full-time into that. What do you miss about the print medium, and do you still dabble in it at all, even for pleasure?
Well, I write every day. I write an editorial every day, and it's more recently here in the last couple of months getting picked up by the Daily Hive and Offside. So I guess I'm back to having bylines again, gentlemen.
Yep.
And that's exciting because it's a terrific collaboration with the Daily Hive. I was a newspaper guy at my core by trade. I was an ink stain wretch for 15 years. I moved out here in 2007 to be the Globe and Mail sports correspondent leading up to the 2010 Olympics. So it was extremely exciting. And there are certain things that I miss about newspapers, like when you've got a good story, like a really good, pithy story, to be able to give it the newspaper treatment is something special and something I miss. Also miss breaking news in newspapers because you go to bed at night knowing in the morning your phone's going to be blowing up, or at least that used to be the case before the internet. So I miss those things, but boy, like the newspaper job changed a fair bit in my 15 years. Like I sort of caught the end of the heyday where you had time to sit there and make calls from your desk or get out into the field and pursue story. By the end, my newspaper job was cover the game tonight. Where's that web update? Are you going to blog? When's that long feature? So you didn't sort of have time to sit there, work the phones, work your contacts, and go out and get story as readily. It became an increasingly busy day job filled with a lot of filings and less time to actually, do the think pieces. Less time to go digging in and get the exclusive pieces, and frankly, less travel as well. Like one of the things that I delighted in here at the Globe, and especially here in Vancouver at the Globe, my first year, like I was down in LA covering the NBA Finals. I was in Seattle covering NFL playoff games. When the Raptors would go west, I would join them, as well as covering the Canucks and Lions and Whitecaps and everything going on here in BC and with our Olympic athletes. So it was a real it was like a buffet of sports that I got to cover, and it was amazing for someone like me who's a broadly interested sports fan. That became less and less as well as the years went.
I'm lucky if I get to go to Kelowna to cover a Blazers Rockets playoff game on the company dime. It's pretty clear that the Canucks drive the Vancouver sports media market, but I wanted to ask you about what's going on in this country with soccer right now. I listened to your show yesterday. You talked a lot about soccer. What do you think this run for the men's team and what the women have done as well has potential to do to change kind of the sports landscape in this province and in this country?
I think it has a lot of capacity. I think there very well could be a day where soccer is the number 2 spectator sport in Canada. I think there very well could be a day where soccer is even rivaling hockey in Canada, though I'm not sure I'll be alive to see that one. The women have been such a tremendous story, and that great story of evolution and improvement and development, right? The bronze medal after the terrible break from the referee in London in 2012. When we should have had the U.S. beat. You guys remember that?
Yeah.
The
timing and everything. Yeah.
So we feel aggrieved. We feel like we had a grudge there. And the program and the ladies, to their infinite credit, went out in Rio and got back onto the podium and said, we're not done. And so getting to the top step in Tokyo was a mesmerizing moment for Canadian sports, a transformative moment, I think. Now the men getting to this World Cup finals, the first in 36 years, and you take a look at what the television ratings are on Sportsnet for these games, and boy, you think back and how did One Soccer get the rights to this? Like, how did TSN and Sportsnet not see this coming in a bigger way? Because we all did, tracking the progress of some of these young players. They're an incredible group of players and athletes. They represent a diverse cross-section of Canada. And they're going to the biggest stage with the chance to win in that plucky underdog role, but a plucky enough underdog that, if the cards fall right, if they play well enough, they could maybe get out of the group stage, which would be incredible.
I know you have to go here, so this is going to be a tough one to answer in 2 minutes, but fix the Canucks for us. Fix the Canucks for us, okay? Fix the Canucks in 5 minutes for us.
Return appearance.
But I mean, how do you feel about this team right now? It's a fascinating time. Just your thoughts in general on how do you think that the Rutherford and Alvin see this team? What's going to happen this summer? Are they going to make the playoffs? I don't think so. Just can you give us your take here?
So I was listening to Stan Smeal yesterday from Abbotsford Center on a radio station here in Vancouver, and even he mentioned got to clear cap space.
Yeah.
So it would appear to me that the overarching message that the Rutherford and the Alvin group have given to their deputies has been, we have to clear out some of these bad contracts that we have. We have to be able to create some cap space here to go out and get the type of players that we want to build this organization with. So I think it's going to be an incredibly busy summer. I think you're getting down to a decision between JT Miller and Bo Horvat, because those are the two guys that you can talk about an extension with this summer. And I do think that this team is in line for, if not major surgeries, significant surgeries. But they've inherited a really good team, or at least a really good core, when you take a look at that young core of players. So I think there are some cards at their disposal this summer, and I think it's going to be a busy one.
All right, Matt. Thanks for your time. We appreciate it.
Fellas, anytime. Appreciate you asking me, and it's been a blast.
Cheers.
Talk soon.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bit more news before we go. Let's check out the last week clique.
Council was reviewing this week at its regular meeting a grant application to help fund $16 million of proposed improvements to active transportation infrastructure around the Thompson Rivers University area. Now, what does that mean? Think about this. The Summit Drive connector, it runs adjacent to the university, and also on the other side there is quite a bit of student housing. Now that route is actually a dangerous goods route. It's quite busy with vehicular traffic. The city, looking to make improvements for pedestrians and cyclists, proposed is an overpass connecting the two areas, as well as multi-use pathway to be built along the Summit Drive connector, essentially a separated pathway to allow for people to walk and to cycle in that area in a more safe way.
This week I've had to make a pair of international calls for a couple of stories that I have in the newspaper. The first was to the Philippines, where I spoke with the estranged daughter of Maud Abdullah, the slain Kamloops TRU professor who was found murdered back on March 17th. His daughter there, Sarah Lada Bucco, had just recently found out, just a few days ago, that her father had been the victim of homicide here. And she obviously has a lot of questions and concerns, and has been reaching out to local media here in Kamloops. She's looking for justice and is hoping to get some answers soon. She noted that the person charged, no one's been arrested in connection to the homicide, but a local lawyer, Butch Bagaboyu, has been charged with allegedly interfering with Mr. Abdullah's body by placing him in a plastic bin. And she actually knew who Butch Bagaboyu was, as someone who her father had talked to her about when he visited her in the Philippines. So she knows that he is in fact his lawyer and was apparently a trusted friend and confidant. Now let's take it back to the studio with Marty and Chris.
He Zoom interviewed with to Kamloops chief Roseanne Casimir.
Let's talk about that. This is wild.
She's in Rome, and we're filming this on March 30th. Tomorrow, March 31st, she gets audience with Pope Francis.
I think we've got one more slide here too, because
there's Chief Roseanne Casimir with Prime Minister Trudeau in October of last year. Now she's in Rome with the delegation of Assembly of First Nations and a Métis and an Inuit delegation. The Métis and Inuit delegations met with the Pope earlier this week. Now it's the AFN's turn. So there's, I think, 17 Assembly of First Nations representatives, including Chief Casimir, and they each get 10 minutes with the Pope to say what they want to tell him. And we have a story online at kamloopsthisweek.com and in today's newspaper. Michael wrote a story, and he interviewed Roseanne from Rome, and she talked about what she plans to talk to Pope Francis about, what she wants to tell him, what she wants from him, and it's a good story.
She's going to invite the Pope.
They've already invited him before, but this is going to be in person. And I think that the idea is they want him to apologize, but on their land, on their soil, preferably into Kamloops, where this whole enhanced reconciliation drive began with the announcement last year. The kind of thing that irks me is that why should they have to go there? I mean, they were wronged. That's a fact. I think I get why they're there and they're getting an audience, but I think the Catholic Church should have said, no, we'll come to you.
I mean, it's a step, though. It's a step.
Yeah, the step should have been over this side of the Atlantic, but nevertheless, it's good that they're there, and I hope he comes here. And it's obviously a step in the right direction.
Maybe I'm a pessimist, but there's no way he's coming here, right? I mean,
he's coming here. He's coming to Canada.
I mean, to Kamloops? You think so? Well, I guess it's ground zero. I mean...
No, I think he will. Now, right now, you're down a pint and wings to me because I won the bet on Kelly Olynyk not playing in the Olympics or the Worlds.
I think you lost that bet.
No, I won that bet because he bowed out at the training camp. You know.
Oh, yeah.
So you're down 1 pint and a wings. So I'll bet you another pint and wings that the Pope, when he comes to Canada, he's in Kamloops.
We're betting on a papal visit.
Papal visit.
The papal visit bet.
He will be in Kamloops. I saw the Pope was in Abbotsford in 1986. He did mass for about 500,000 people at the Abbotsford Airport. And my mom and my sister wanted to go see him, but she didn't want to sit through the whole sermon. So they went there, and they saw him come up in his Pope-mobile. It was Pope John Paul.
Yeah.
And once he got up there, they tried to leave, and they tried to keep him in, but they said, no, we're out of here, and they went out into the pub. So they
probably tried to rob him, so one of your B&E days or something. Tried to take him to the highwayman. Thanks for joining us today. Let's bring Herman in for some FaceTime. I know he's happy with my commercial on the charcuterie board, which you don't understand. And we thank McDonald's, and we thank Magic Mike Miltimore, and Bonnie at the controls, all of our sponsors. For Folds, I'm Marty. We'll see you last week.